Hi, everyone. Oh, it's good to be back. I was actually never in these seats. I was in another building down the way, but it is so good to be back. You know, a lot of things have changed since I was in high school. Not just on campus, but off campus. You don't actually have to look further than the headlines to see that the world is changing. And it's changing at a pretty rapid rate, yes? You know, we've got climate change, water issues, overpopulation. You know, the world is full of problems that we need to solve. And if I look at that future, personally, I get tremendous anxiety. Like, how am I going to solve all of those problems? And I realize I'm surrounded by people like you. And although my generation and our generation and all of the generations before us, you know, we're not here to do it alone. And in particular, my generation, we may be the most jobless, most in debt, most live at home, most single parent, most narcissistic, most selfie-taking generation. I also believe in my generation because we are 80 million strong in the United States. There are 1.8 billion millennials around the world. Half of the world's population is under the age of 35. Half of the world's population is under the age of 35. That's extraordinary potential. Extraordinary potential to make a difference, to change the world, to have an impact. All of us. Now, I grew up being raised that I could change the world. You know, my parents used to always say, they said, "Lauren, you can do anything that you want." I was like, anything that I want? And over here, someone would say, just follow your passions, follow your dreams. I was like, but I don't have any passions. I don't know what I want to do. I have no idea. You know, I even remember applying to high school being like, I don't know where I want to go. And it's okay not to know. It is totally okay not to know. Because not knowing, there's extraordinary power in not knowing, because anything is possible. I mentioned that I'm a millennial, yes? And when I graduated in 2007 from college. And when I graduated into a world where we were told that if we went to the right schools, got the right jobs, majored in the right thing, lived in the right town, that we would have a job waiting for us. Now, I graduated, and I have 40 jobs, and I have a pair of shoes to go with every job. You know, I personally like the leopard slippers, and yes, sleeping is an activity. And I realized that we graduated into a world that we actually had to create our jobs. You know, there weren't jobs waiting for us, and there weren't opportunities for us. But we were driven, and we were hungry, and above all, we were curious. And I believe that the future belongs to the curious, those who are eager to learn something new. You know, when I graduated, I was like, oh man, what am I going to do? And I'd been studying, I got a degree in theater, because I just love theater, and I got this other degree in conservation resource studies. I thought, you know, the environment is an important thing. And I squished them together, and I created a company called Real Green Media. And I was 20 years old. I was like, okay, I'm going to create a company in a recession. This is not a great idea, but it's okay, you know? You only live once. YOLO, I think is what we're saying now, right? YOLO. We didn't have YOLO. I'm a serious FOMO always. You know, and the truth is, so I graduated, and I was like, I'm going to start a business. And I go, how am I going to do this? So I thought, conservation resource studies, theater, what's the environmental impact of being entertained? You know, what does it cost the environment for us to laugh? What does it cost the environment for us to cry? You know, if this was a movie set, you know, where is that going to go after? Where is that going to go after? And I began to think, and I began to get really curious. And I wrote my senior thesis on the environmental impact of entertainment, finding that it was the second largest polluter in all of Southern California. I was like, whoa. How can I make a difference? How can little old me make an impact? So I was thinking, well, how am I going to do it? And I thought, why didn't I jump in the dumpsters? I literally started my career knee-deep and nasty. So I would go through the dumpsters and I would salvage pieces of set pieces that could be used in communities. And I started donating them to local nonprofits. I started donating them to local communities. And sure enough, I got to know people. I started speaking on panels. And sure enough, I met someone who later said, I have an opportunity for you. I'm looking for someone to be my special events manager. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's fantastic. And he said, you know everyone, you've been in the dumpsters, do you know anyone who would be interested? And I wrote back to him and I said, me, see resume attached. I was bold. And sure enough, I ended up getting a phenomenal job that I loved. And I was there for, as a millennial, we don't hold jobs for usually more than 8 months. So I was there for 8 months. And I had an extraordinary opportunity. And my mother used to always tell me, she said, Lauren, always write thank you notes. Always appreciate the people that you are with, and always tell them how important they are in your life. And so sure enough, when my 8 months was up, I wrote thank you notes. Dear so-and-so, thank you so much for letting me borrow that. Dear so-and-so, thank you for opening the door for me. Dear so-and-so, thank you for holding the dumpster open for me so I could climb in. Thank you so much for securing the door. Whatever it was always an opportunity to appreciate people in our lives. To be curious about them, to be interested in them. And we're actually living in a time where it's very rare that we actually have the experience of being listened to. So I wrote those thank you notes. I told people how I appreciated them. And sure enough, it opened up the opportunity for me to work at the Academy Awards. And I've been working there for 4 years, and to this day, I still write thank you notes. So if anything you're going to take away from this talk today, write your thank you notes. Because you don't know what opportunities are available to you when you appreciate people for who they are. Now, I mentioned curiosity. We're actually competing with so much today. Not only are we competing with one another, but every time, at least in LA, every time you go into a conversation, you're going into a conversation with the person you're talking to and their device. There's actually, you have to be more interesting to the person that you are sitting across the table with than what's in their hand, which is the entire world. All Facebook, social media, and you are competing to be more interesting than what's on their device. So it's up to you to also be generative, be curious, be interested, and be interesting. When I think about the future, I also think of what we need most. And we need a generation of people who are interested and curious about learning new things, but also not afraid to fail. The world may be a crazy place with some intense things that we're facing, but there are also unprecedented opportunities to succeed and to fail. 3 months ago, I was here in Canada, and I was competing in the Ironman Canada. It is a 2.4-mile swim, a 112-mile bike ride, and a 26.2-mile run. I live in the US, so we don't necessarily do the metric system. So I had trained for over a year. I had gone to practice nearly every day. My entire world was focused on doing the Ironman. And you can imagine, as someone who is always busy and up to a lot of things, this was a goal. And I'm one of those people that when I get my eyes set on a goal, my entire world is that goal. There are blinders that go on, and I find my identity in that goal, and when I get to that goal, I will be safe and I will have succeeded. And I was going after this goal, and I had trained and I was ready. July 26th was here. You know how in life we're like, oh, I'm going to do that someday? Word to the wise, someday is not a day of the week. Someday is today. And July 26th was my someday. It was my race day. And I got in the water. I did the swim. It was very, very cold. And then I got on the bike. And at mile 88, I blacked out. I'd hit my limit. And I crashed. And my head hit the pavement and my helmet split open. And the race was over. It was done. All of that training was done in a split second. And that's how fast the world can change. It can change in a split second. They put me in a collar. They took me off the course. And it was done. I was completely heartbroken. You know, you can imagine any race or anything that you've gone after, and all of a sudden, in a moment, it's taken away from you. My identity was lost. You know, what am I going to be if I'm not someone who's training for an Ironman? Who am I going to be if I'm not someone going after this goal? I couldn't write my name the day after. In fact, I couldn't write my name for 2 days. A simple task became a huge obstacle for me. And I remember standing with my brother, and my brother is my confidant and such a light in my life. And I remember sitting with him, and he said, Lauren, you need to give your family an opportunity to recover from this, and you need to slow down. And you can imagine, having been someone who was programmed minute to minute to minute from high school, like what my life was going to be, I had it all scheduled. And the truth is, you cannot plan your future. You know, our predictions, you never know what's going to happen next. You never know. And you never know how fast life can change. We also don't know the impact that we can have on people. We do not know the impact we can have on people, but what I can guarantee you is that the most valuable currency that we have is our impact on people. There are, 500 people here? I would venture to guess that everyone has probably about 20 conversations a day. Now, Brentwood, we may have a little bit more, but considering the people who are online as well, we probably have about 20 conversations a day. Times 500 people in this room, that's 10,000 opportunities to have an impact on someone's life. 10,000 opportunities to write thank you notes, 10,000 opportunities to say thank you, to appreciate someone, to make an impact. Times 7 days, that's 70,000 opportunities. In this room, 70,000 opportunities this week to change the world. Over the course of a month, it's 250,000 opportunities here at Brentwood to make an impact on somebody's life with one conversation. So on the break, I want to invite you to have 3 conversations where you acknowledge someone, you thank someone, and you appreciate someone. 250,000 opportunities this month alone. Wow. You know, I said that I was raised to believe that I could change the world. What I realize is I can't change that world, but I can change my world. And I hopefully can say something that will impact yours to make a difference. And in conclusion today, I'd like to say 2 things. One is when I crashed, as much as getting up to the point that I wanted to have this goal succeed, I was very public about it. I invited my community to join me, but it also meant that my defeat was very public. Here is an image of when I crashed. It was the image that went out on Facebook, out on Instagram, to inform my community what had happened. And it was incredible because what I got, the comments that I got was, thank you so much. You know, it's actually really great that you didn't succeed. It's a relief that you didn't hit your goal, because had I crossed the finish line that day, it would have just been another accomplishment. It would have been a great accomplishment, but it would have been an accomplishment nonetheless. And I realized that my life isn't just about checking boxes off a bucket list. And it's not just about achieving our goals and achieving our accomplishments. And at the end of the day, I may or may not have had a medal, but I am still Lauren. I am still me. And I'm learning who that person is. And it is hard. And it is now public. And through my vulnerability, I hope that I have been able to inspire other people that even in our lowest moments, even when we fail, we can inspire others. Now, I had a pledge that I did when I was in elementary school, and we did it in sign language, so you have to excuse my rusty sign language because it's been a while. But it was a pledge that we did in our morning assemblies. We had Monday morning assemblies when I was a kid. And my headmaster would go up on stage, and we would all stand, and he would do this. We would all go together, and he would say, "A pledge to myself. This day has been given to me fresh and clear. I can either use it or throw it away. I promise to use this day to its fullest, realizing it can never come back again. I realize that this is my life, either to use or to throw away." Thank you.